everybody out there, this is Seto, and today for you guys I'm going to be profiling for you a really cool and interesting deck, that being Nordic Beast. Now first off, I'm going to say to you guys that I do apologize in advance if I mispronounce any of the Nordic Beast monsters. I have tried for a long time to pronounce them correctly, but alas, I am horrible at pronouncing their names. So down in the comment section, if you want to tell me down below how to pronounce them properly, feel free to go do that, as I butcher these guys' names to some extent. Second thing is, I've always wanted to build this deck in real life, but I never really got around to it because of the fact that, for the most part, this deck is more of a fun type of deck. It's not super competitive or, consistent to some degree. It's more of a casual, fun deck where you get to summon, the gods like Thor and Loki and Odin, even though we just do play in the deck Odin and Thor, not Loki, because Odin's the best one I find and Thor is the second best one, so I play just those two. But the deck's more of a fun type of deck, and after Legendary 5D's collection came out and the prices of all these cards kind of dropped, I decided, yes, this is the time to pick this deck up and play this deck because I've always loved history, which is one of the reasons why I've always loved Six Samurais and Gravekeepers. But without further ado, let us get started. So first off, we have 3 Tenjasnir and 3 Tenjasnir. Tenjasnir. I always call them the yin-yang goats because one's white, one's dark. Ha 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 ha. But pretty much what happens is if you have Tenjasnir out on the field, he gets destroyed by battle, you get 2 tokens. And what's supposed to happen is if you have this card, Tenjasnir, in your hand, you can special summon it after this goat gets destroyed. That way you have a special summon with this in defense position. On your turn, you switch it to attack position, special out a tuner, and go for a big synchro play. That's how this deck, in theorio, is supposed to kind of work. But these goats work in combination. We used to call them the sacrificial lambs, I guess you could say, the sacrificial goats to get the deck rolling. But these are kind of like the main engine to get the deck rolling, to get in your Nordic god monsters. And like I said, and I'll say it again, I only run 1 Thor and 1 Odin because this deck goes for big synchro plays, but you can't always rely on getting the gods out sometimes. So next we run 3 super. Let me pronounce this. I've always had trouble pronouncing this card's name. Super Nimble Mega Hamster. There we go. I said it. Super Nimble Mega Hamster. Try to say that 10 times fast. I promise you, you will mess up eventually. Go. So we run this card because this card really helps precipitate getting Tenjasnir and the other goat out. So it can help bide you time. We also run Hang, which I'll talk about why we run that in a second. So this card is kind of your playmaker of the deck. Yes, it is a flipper flex, so it is kind of slow, but it does come in handy. So let me just explain to you some of the plays you can do with this. So you go set Nimble Mega Hamster. They attack it, you flip it up, you special out a Tenjasnir. If they're not going to attack you that turn, you put it in defense position, then you put it in attack position on your turn, special out a Nordic tuner out from your deck, go for a synchro play that way, or on your turn, special out another card and just go for a big synchro play. If your opponent's going to attack you again that turn, what you can do is you can go special out the goat gets destroyed, and then you get to special out 2 tokens, and then you can, if you have Tenjasnir in your hand, you special summon him from the hand, do a whole bunch, put him in defense position, then on your turn switch him to attack position, get a tuner out, and go for a big god card play right there with one of your Nordic monsters. I know that was a little bit complex, but just pretty much this card helps precipitates the goats getting out so you can get their different effects rolling and go into synchro plays. That's the main gist of it, if you didn't understand everything I was saying right there, so I do apologize. It does get a little complex. And another thing I'll mention about this deck is you cannot make misplays with this deck. You make one misplay with this deck and you are going to lose. So you have to be, you have to think ahead. You can't think on just, next turn. You have to think a turn ahead or something like that to kind of win with this deck. Next we run 1 Hang because, believe it or not, Hang's actually a beast. This is an old card from way back in the day that I used to play. So pretty much Hang is compulsory evacuation device on legs. So depending upon the situation, you can go Super Nimble Mega Hamster set. Then you can go set, after it gets destroyed, you can set this card. They attack it, you flip it up, you can pulse a monster on their field, and there you go. You've done your job. Or, if they don't destroy that turn, you special summon the hang. On your turn, flip it up. Normal summon a tuner, go for a 6 or 7, whatever you want to. And you've compulsed a monster on the field. So it's kind of nice to have. It's a little versatile card to have in the deck. And I like it. It's just a fun little techie card. Then for your tuners, we run 2 Vanadis. Vanadis is your main tuner, mainly because the fact if you actually look at Thor and Loki, Thor and Odin, let me make sure this is right here. Yeah, Thor says it needs 1 Nordic Ascent tuner, so that's an Ascent tuner. And Thor says he needs 1 Nordic Beast tuner, which is most of the time Gilfax. But the thing that's really nice about Vanadis is she can be used for some synchro summoning with any, with Thor, Loki. So if you wanted to put Loki in the deck, you could go put, this is the main tuner to go into any of the Nordic gods, because of the fact that this can be treated, so I'm trying to say this properly, it can be treated for any of the other tuners. So even though it says a Nordic Beast for Thor, this can be treated as a Nordic Beast for synchro summoning with Thor. This for Loki can be used as the synchro summon required for Loki. This can be treated for the synchro summon with, the tuner you need to special summon, Odin. So that's why I like Vanadis over, the other ones. We do run 2 Gilfax because he's pretty nice to have, but this is your main tuner for going into Odin and for going into Thor most of the time. And the cool thing is she can manipulate her level, so you can send, if you have an extra Tanger Sneer in the graveyard and you need to set up the level properly, you can send it to the graveyard, make her level 3, and be able to synchro summon up that way to get the correct level. So that's why we like her. Sorry if it's a little complex. This deck is kind of complex unless you've played it before. Then we run 2 Gilfax. Gilfax is really nice. You never get his effect off nowadays. Once in a blue moon you will if you're going against a rogue deck. His effect is if your opponent has a synchro monster on the field, you can special summon him to the field. That rarely happens nowadays. But pretty much he's a beast, so he can help you go for Thor mainly. But he also is in there mainly to go for the other synchro monsters that you have in your deck, because he's level 4. So that's what his main purpose is. And he's a beast, which comes in handy because you can reborn him with Air's Rock, which I'm going to talk about. So you run 3 Air's Rock. This is a card that came out of Dragons of Legend last year, and it's a very, very good card in this deck. This card's amazing. So Air's Rock pretty much states for every, when you activate this card, you can special summon from your graveyard 1 beast, winged beast, or winged beast monster. So I think beast, winged beast. But pretty much your entire deck is beast and some fairies sprinkled in. So your 2 goats are beast type monsters. Your Mega Hamster, which really doesn't matter, is a beast. Your Gilfax is a beast as well. So your goats and your Gilfax, which is your main tuner, so your main playmaking cards are all beast type. So when you activate Air Sunrock, if you have another beast in the graveyard, your opponent's going to lose 200 attack on their monster, which is nice. And you get to reborn a beast monster, so you can reborn a tuner, a monster you need to go into a Nordic Beast or another synchro type monster. So it's pretty much monster reborn for the deck, which is really nice, with added effects. So I really like it in the deck. It fits perfectly well at 3. Originally I was trying it at 2, but 2 was a little bit, I was like, you know what, I want to have 3 in this deck because it's that good of a card to have in the deck. Next, I run 3 Upstart Goblin. I was debating running something else instead of Upstart Goblin, but at the end of the day, I'm going to say this to you. You really need Upstart. I already run 2 Pod Dualities, even though this deck does special summon a lot. But I also run Upstart because the fact is, you need consistency in this deck. You really, really, really need it. If you don't get your plays rolling, you're just going to get rolled over by your opponent, no matter what deck they are playing. So 3 Upstart Goblin just helps precipitate the deck's consistency, I find. Then we run 2 Pod Duality for consistency. Like I said earlier, yes, this deck does synchro summon, it does special summon a good amount of the time, but Pod Duality along with Upstart Goblin just gives you consistency, board presence, just helps you precipitate your plays as the duel continues to grind on and go on. So that's why we run 2 Pod Dualities for that reason. just adds consistency to the deck. Then we run 2 Forbidden Lance. I've considered bumping this up to 3 Forbidden Lance because it's such a good card in this deck, especially when you get the God monsters, the Nordic gods out or something like that. I mean, granted, Odin is kind of has a built-in Forbidden Lance, but still, it can come in handy. So either way, I do like Forbidden Lance because you do invest a lot into your synchro summoning monsters. And you want them to stay on the field after you use all these resources to synchro summon them. So Forbidden Lance is really nice. I've tried other things like Forbidden Dress, which was okay. I even tried, what is it called? Oh my gosh, I forget. The Trap card. I forget what it's called off the top of my head. It'll come to me after I'm done making this video, believe me. But yes, I've tried other cards to try it out to see if it works, but I just prefer Forbidden Lance over all those. Then I run 2 Mystical Space Typhoon just to deal with that one back row or whatever your opponent's running, Necro Valley, whatever it is out there, Skill Drain, that one Vanities, whatever. Then for your 1-ofs, we run 1 Book of Moon, 1 Soul Charge, 1 Regeki. Book of Moon, just a versatile card, like I've always said. Regeki, it's a good 1-of, clear the board, attack with a 4000 Odin. Yeah, I like that. Soul Charge, yes, you can attack, but you can just set up a big synchro play that turn. Just give up your life points and go for a big synchro play that turn. And just make it a breakable board, I guess you could say, to some extent, possibly. It's just a good card to have. Even though you run 3 Air Sunrock, it's just good to reborn things from the deck after this deck has gone through its resources. Then we run 3 Gleipnir, Gleipnir, the Feathers of Finjur. Pretty much this is a Rhoda in trap form for the Nordic Beast. So you set it, you flip it up, you search for a Nordic Beast monster. That's what it is. The cool thing about this is it can be used for MST bait, which I've done so many times to people online. You set it, throw MST that one back row, you search, they've wasted an MST. Good job. So that's why I like that card. It may be slow in trap form, but still, it can be used. You can use it properly to gain a little bit of advantage with your opponent against your opponent. Next, we run 2 Mirror Force. You can run Mirror Force with Deep Prison. I just like Mirror Force because this deck is kind of slow, and you don't want to be just OTK'd at the wazoo. Plus, it can clear your board out, and you can attack with a big beater. Then I run 3 Fiendish Chains. The reason I run 3 Fiendish Chains instead of Breakthrough Skill, I just don't want my opponent reactivating their effects. Castell, 101, Big Eye, those 3 main cards. Thank gosh Snatch and Steal is banned because you just cry with that, when your opponent activates Snatch and Steal in this deck. But you run the 3 Fiendish Chains to just stop Castell, 101, and Big Eye. Those are the 3 main cards you're worried against. Because the fact of the matter is, those cards and other cards can easily get over the Nordic Beasts now. They've been overpowered. But this can help prevent it. And you also run Vulcan the Divine so you can reuse your Fiendish Chains because it's very easy to go into level 6s. So depending upon the situation, you can just reuse your dead Fiendish Chains and just constantly, protect your Nordic Beast that way from monster effects. Because that's the real downfall of this deck is monster effects. Your opponent gets a Castell, a 101, a Big Eye out, or even an XYZ Rebellion Dragon. You're going to be sitting there going, oh, I do not like this. 1 Compulse, 1 Bottomless, 1 Solemn Warning. Compulse, versatile card, believe me. Bottomless, just a good card. Solemn Warning, good card in this deck. Even though you're going to take hits. You're going to take hits from your opponent with this deck because, believe me, your life points will go down fast. And yes, you run Soul Charge, but it's just very good in this deck because gives you some control of the board. So if they bring out a 101, like I said, Castell, whatever, you can just say no, which is really nice. And then you don't have to worry about your big monsters being destroyed because this deck does invest a lot into its synchro summons. So next we go into the extra deck. We run 1 Ghost Trick Alucard because you run a couple of rank level 3s and just Ghost Trick Alucard. He can come in handy. So we just run 1 Exceed monster there, Alucard. Then for your 6s, you run 1 Vulcan the Divine, which I explained before you can use with your Fiendish Chains. and you run one Golio Guardian for your other level 6, which is kind of nice to have because I kind of find him the best level 6, but you don't want to run more than one of him. Then we run for our 7s. I believe we run one Voltic Biocorn. This card's kind of good because sometimes you can set up your graveyard and use things like Soul Charge or your Ares Rock Sunrise, so it can kind of come in handy. I don't always go into it, but it's kind of nice to have in the deck. So one Voltic Bicorn. Then we run one Black Rose Moonlight Dragon. Very good card. And then one Black Rose Dragon, the regular version, to just nuke the field. But these are the main level 7s you go into. There is one more we go into, which we'll talk about in a second. We also want one Scrap Dragon Archfiend, just for the fact that he's a 2,700 beat stick and he can help you get over things, is the only reason we want him in the deck. Then we run for your level 8s, we run one Belize of the Diabolical Dragon. This is for the fact that you do run a Dark Tuner and you can go into level 8s fairly good, and that's because you run the Dark Tuner is Validus of the Nordic Ascent. So if you're not going to use her for a synchro summon of a Nordic god, you can go into Belize and wreak havoc that way, depending upon what your setup is on the board. Then we run the Scrap Dragon to pop things, Stardust Spark Dragon, and lastly Red Heart Dragon Archfiend. Pretty good level 8s. That's my level 8 lineup. Then we have Odin and Thor. I don't run Loki because I haven't found Loki to be that good. I find that Odin is the best, Thor is the second best, and Loki is the last. Odin is kind of like, it has a built-in lance, which is the reason why he's best, plus he's a 4,000 beat stick. Thor is just fun to go into. I mean, heck, this is one of the reasons why I built the deck, is because of the movies Thor, and I love Marvel Comics. So, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Thor, so that's why I built this deck, kind of. So that's why I run these two. If you want to run Loki, go right ahead, but you'll never really go into them. These are the two main ones you go into, Thor and Odin. Next, we run one Leo, the Keeper of the Sacred Trees, because sometimes it's best to just go for Leo instead of the gods, and one Star Eater, because sometimes you do go into him depending upon your level manipulation setup, because sometimes you just have tokens floating around, you can synchro up with other things and go into Star Eater. So that is the extra deck, guys, and I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile. I'm just going to put Thor and Odin out there. So yes, I hope you all enjoyed this. This deck is really fun to play. It's not super competitive, like I said before. It is fun to play around with. I apologize if it was kind of hard understanding, me talking about the goats and just some of the cards in the deck, because some of the combo plays for this deck are kind of a little complex. I will admit to that. It takes some time to understand the card interaction if you're not familiar with the deck in the first place. But just pretty much, I'll give you the synopsis. The goats are the main way of precipitating this deck to make your big synchro plays. Second off, this deck, when it goes for the big synchro plays, invests a lot into those synchro plays. And once you invest a lot of your 3-4 cards into a synchro monster, you want to have that synchro monster stick around for more than one turn, which is one of the reasons why you run things like Forbidden Lance, and you run Fiendish Chain, and you can reuse Fiendish Chain with Vulcan. And don't always feel like you have to go into the Nordic gods to win this deck. If you can easily go for a level 8 synchro play, like Stardust Spark Dragon, Red Hot Dragon Archfiend, go that route. These are in here because you can go for them, and they're there for fun as well. So that's just a little tip from me to you on how to play this deck. But till next time, guys, take care, have fun dueling, good luck dueling. I hope you all enjoyed this deck profile. And until next time, guys, Seto Kaiba, I am out of here till next time. And go Nordic Beasts, and go the gods of old.